Terrance Ferguson and Elijah Arroyo are going to be league winners in 2025. We'll explain why next.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Here are your hosts, Marcus Mosher and Kate Magdziuk.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. This episode is brought to you by the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox, no console needed. Head over to amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Kate Magdziuk. You can follow her on Twitter at Kate Magdziuk. And on today's show, we're going to take a look at 6 sleepers who are currently being drafted outside of the first 2 rounds or so of your rookie drafts that you should be targeting right now. And Kate, let's start with a couple second-round tight ends that we both love. Each of us picked our own. Who do you got?
I'm going to talk about Miami tight end and now a Seattle Seahawks tight end, Elijah Arroyo, who, I mean, come on, Marcus, we got to look at this very explosive athlete, top 50 pick, who is walking into a system with, I don't know, tons of vacated targets. You got no Tyler Lockett, no DK Metcalf. You do, of course, have Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's going to work over the middle of the field. But looking at Elijah Arroyo and his skill set coming out of Miami, he profiles as like the perfect just weapon as a receiver. He doesn't, project nearly as well, I think, as a true like inline tight end. He played more snaps out of the slot than he did as a traditional inline tight end in 2024. Definitely, I was, I don't know if you were surprised at all to see him go this high. Probably would have gone much higher if it hadn't been for a pretty concerning health history throughout college. But big hands, again, just a big-bodied, explosive athlete who, I mean, you can make big plays, reliable, again, when on the field, catch and run. Like, he can do a little bit of everything in the receiving game. And I think when you're pairing him with the Seattle offense and an opportunity to eat up a decent chunk of that target share, why not take a shot when he's especially going like 3rd, 4th round in some tight end premium leagues?
Yeah, and what I like about Arroyo is he's a vertical tight end. Like he can make plays down the field. He makes plays after the catch. I wouldn't call him a refined route runner or anything like that, but the reason he's on the field is to be a pass catcher. And we talk about this all the time. This is why we like to target these tight ends, because when they're on the field, they're likely going to get opportunities. In a lot of ways, he reminds me of Trey McBride coming out of Colorado State. And you go into an offense where it's JSN, and then I kind of think everybody else is just dust. Like, I kind of think Cooper Kupp is pretty washed up at this point. It sure seems like they're going to be moving on from Noah Fant, whether it's this year or next year. I think there's a pretty clear path for playing time for Arroyo.
For sure. And coming off a breakout campaign, 35 catches, 590 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns, average 16.86 yards per reception. That led all FBS tight ends this year. He was productive. And again, that health history is somewhat concerning. Tore his ACL back in 2022. And again, that played a big factor in him missing a lot of time, 2022, 2023 as well. But I think in general, when you're looking in terms of upside, I want a tight end who is athletic, good after the catch, has the size combination of, speed and athleticism. Like, I think he's kind of like a whole package, 6'5", 254 pounds. Like, but he's a receiving tight end. And
He's a receiving tight end.
That's all you can ask for, paired with the draft capital and opportunity. I love Arroyo in the later rounds of my rookie drafts.
Yeah, and what we've seen from limited ADP, but he is going in the 3rd, 4th round. So if you just want to add another tight end on your roster with upside, maybe you have someone like Travis Kelce, who you're thinking can get you through one more year. I think drafting Arroyo, letting him kind of develop and sit on your bench for a year, and then having him be a full-time starter in 2026, I think that makes a ton of sense.
Absolutely. Again, some of these positions where you don't necessarily have the Brock Bowers under lock, the
Yeah.
Ray McBrides, the TJ Hawkinsons, like these are the type of players that you want to be taking shots in at the tight end position. But you've got another suggestion for our everydayers here, Marcus. Which tight end are you targeting in the later round of your rookie drafts?
Terrance Ferguson, who got drafted by the Rams at pick 40.
Ooh.
Let's start with this. The Rams traded away their first-round pick to the Falcons for a 2026 first-round pick. They also picked up an additional second-round pick. With their first selection, they picked Terrance Ferguson, which tells me that this was somebody that Sean McVay and Les Snead were targeting. He went way above consensus. Usually you don't want to do that, but I do think this was somebody that McVay really, really wants offense, and you can understand why. He's an incredible athlete, a 98th percentile RAS score. He at the NFL Combine, he's 6'6", ran a 4.63 40-yard dash, incredible jumps. But it's not just that he's an athlete. Kate, 53 games at Oregon, 37 starts. The production was okay. He had 3 straight years of basically 400 receiving yards in 2024, 591 yards, 3 touchdowns. The year before that, 400 yards, 6 touchdowns. He played a lot. So this is not somebody that's coming into the league that needs a lot of work and a lot of development. I think he can help this offense right away. And I think he fits the Sean McVay offense because what he does best is run some of the underneath routes and then get upfield and make plays after the catch. I think that works really well. So if I can get a top 50 pick at tight end in the 3rd, sometimes even the 4th round of my drafts, doing it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I think what's really kind of key is, again, just kind of locking in on Sean McVay's intentions here when you're utilizing that first pick of your draft. Like, let's forget the number. It's basically their first round pick, right?
Yeah.
Like this is
their guy.
This is their guy. And I'm sure they would have loved to have a Colston Loveland. I thought for sure if he was available in, the late teens, early 20s, I could have sworn that it would have been written in the stars that Sean McVay and company would trade up just to get Colston Loveland because I think he would have been an interesting fit there. But I think pinpointed a lot of the opportunities for upside here, especially when we like the play caller, right?
Mm-hmm.
We like the organization. I think there's plenty of opportunity. I know there's Devontae Adams there. He's older. You have Puka Nacua. Like there's options there, but the tight end position is so wide open. And
we should also mention Tyler Higbee. He's a free agent after this year at 32 and coming off of multiple injuries. Like I wonder how much he has left. And I just don't think he's the athlete anymore to scare teams after the catch or vertically. Maybe Higbee is one of these guys that starts the year, but as we get closer and closer to the playoffs, Ferguson plays more snaps. I just don't see any way that Ferguson's not a impact player for them by year 2.
Yeah, I think that's spot on here.
And I think, again, if you have a need at tight end, let's say you mentioned all the names. If you don't have one of those top names, I don't think it's the worst strategy in the world to spend a 2nd and a 3rd round pick. Maybe you go Mason Taylor Ferguson or Ferguson Elijah Arroyo or Ferguson and Harold Fannin Jr. and just load up because this is a really good tight end class. And I think for the most part, Ferguson or Arroyo, Mason Taylor landed in pretty favorable spots. I think throwing numbers at the position isn't the worst idea.
Yeah. And I honestly, before the show, we were talking about our rookie drafts, how they're going so far. And I said, this has probably been, in all of my years of playing Dynasty, this has been some of like the ugliest, messiest rookie drafts, I think, in general. I feel like there's not a ton of consensus ADP falling out of like round 3, rounds 4. If you go in round 5, like it's bedlam. But I do think what we lack in like the narratives about, the frustrations about the wide receiver class, or we talk about the depth of the running back class. I don't feel like we're hearing enough about the shots worth taking with the tight end group that
Yes.
emerged from the 2025 NFL draft. So I think both of these guys are outstanding late round targets.
All right, let's talk about some day 3 running backs from the 2025 NFL draft that we are fired up about. Let's get to Devin Neal next. This episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? You can turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to go. Dive into hundreds of premium titles, including EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6, my favorite game right now. You can play them as easily as you stream your favorite TV shows. Listen, there's a lot of time where I'm out on the road and I want to play my Xbox, but I don't want the hassle of packing up the console. Now I just grab my Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K, plug it in, and I am ready to go. It's so convenient for any time. Head over to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, and Fire TV Cube. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We're discussing 6 sleepers that we are targeting from the 2025 NFL Draft. And Kate, let's get to the running back position. This is an all-time great running back class. But who are you targeting from day 3?
Let's talk about Devin Neal, running back out of Kansas, 21 years old, 5'11", 213 pounds, a nice, strong, solid build here. Some small hands, wasn't the fastest, ran a 4.58 40-yard dash at the NFL Combine. But again, has that frame that you really like in a running back. I think the fit here with the potential to, I don't know, maybe take over New Orleans Saints backfield, despite the fact that, yes, Devin Neal was drafted a little later than maybe you would like for some of these guys that we're going to consider sleepers to potentially take over a backfield. But when I'm looking at the opportunity, when I'm looking at the quality that he plays the running back position in terms of his vision, his reliability, only 2 fumbles throughout his entire collegiate career. I just think he's a solid player that happened to fall in the NFL draft because there was a wealth of running backs.
Yep.
He fell to the 6th round, but when you're looking at opportunity with the Saints, the pathway to relevancy here is, I think, pretty clear. You have an aging Alvin Kamara who, obviously continues to play a huge role in the offense. And they have that financial investment in him, but he's still seeking his first career year of 1,000+ rushing yards. He only has,
not going to happen this year.
It's not going to happen this year. He has only 3 seasons to his name. One of them being last season, 2024, with more than 200 carries ever. Three seasons out of 8.
I wonder if Kamara could be moved like during the season, because I just don't think the Saints team is going to be very good this year. And I don't think they're going to try to be very good. I think the goal is to maybe soft tank. I just wonder if Kamara is somebody that could potentially get moved, opening up more snaps for Devin Neal.
Yeah. And I think, again, the pathway even beyond Alvin Kamara. Let's talk about Kendre Miller, who he was one of my favorite sleepers. I know I don't really want to talk about Kendre Miller. But he's been in this offense for 2 years now. He doesn't have any sort of vested stake in, what they're trying to run here in New Orleans. He just hasn't taken off. He's only been active for 14 career games. He's dealt with health issues that have, just kind of dragged on. Nothing has panned out for Kendre Miller. So I think he's an absolute non-factor here. The next easiest pathway for me runs through Devin Neal. And when I think about the fact that he fell to the 6th round, I was relatively surprised. So I think the Saints may have found one of these late round values, day 3, that has a little bit more upside than we typically see for day 3 picks.
I love Devin Neal. I thought when I watched his tape, it reminded me a lot of Kareem Hunt, like early version Kareem Hunt. He's such a physical downhill runner. I think he does a good job of bouncing off contact. So, I mean, yes, he goes
the
in
production history.
Yeah.
3 straight years of 1,000+ rushing yards. Like this is a dude that has, experience. He has the profile of production. He's got the vision. He's got all of the things. So I don't know. Are there any reasons that I'm missing that he fell to the 6th?
And I was going to say that going in the 6th round usually is a bad sign for your dynasty value. However, with this class, I want to caution people not to overreact too much, because I think a 6th rounder this year in most drafts is a 4th rounder, maybe even higher than that. Honestly, like, I think Devin Neal's a better player than Blake Corum, who went in the 3rd round last year. I think he's a better player than Jalen Wright, who went at the top of the 4th round last year. So I get the concerns there, but I'm just not overreacting to it too much. And it won't shock me at all if we get to week 3 and he's the clear-cut RB2 behind Alvin Kamara.
All right, Marcus, let's hear about your favorite running back sleeper here that we can grab in the later rounds of our rookie drafts.
Now, maybe I'm just doubling down because I love this player pre-draft, but I also really like the landing spot. It's Brashard Smith, the running back from SMU, who went to the Chiefs in round 7, which, again, not great, but this is an unusual running back class. Let's start with Smith, the prospect. So the first 3 years of his career, Kate, he was at Miami, and he was a full-time receiver with Miami, had like 900 career receiving yards at Miami. Makes the switch to running back and goes to SMU, and he's fantastic. This year, he had 1,300 rushing yards, averaged 5.67 yards per carry, 14 rushing touchdowns. And then he goes to the NFL Combine, and he runs a 4.39 40-yard dash at 195 pounds, goes to the pro day, bulks up to 200 pounds. So this is somebody who is an awesome receiver. He shows that he's productive as a running back. Kate, 108 career catches coming out of college, which is absurd for a guy like this. And then you look at Kansas City's depth chart, and it's Isaiah Pacheco on the last year of his deal, Kareem Hunt, who is basically dust at this point, on a 1-year deal, Carson Steele, Elijah Mitchell. It's not hard to envision a scenario where Brashard Smith rises up the depth chart, because we've also seen this happen before. Like, Andy Reid's just going to play the best player. He did this with Isaiah Pacheco, who was a late round pick. I think Brashard Smith can be everything they were hoping Clyde Edwards-Helaire was going to be, with just much, much more juice. Andy Reid has a great track record of making these type of players work. He's got good size. He's got great athleticism, and he's a productive receiver. Sign me up.
I think that kind of checks a lot of boxes here. And I do think that there are some times where we see these like positional changes here in college, and maybe you don't see these players drafted as highly because we don't have as much of a portfolio of experience here, but that also shows you a lot of untapped upside. If they're able to get to a level of production in college while switching positions, I think it's a nice kind of show of faith. I love this pick. I think the pathway to a workload, Marcus, let's be honest, like the running back position, you can produce and you can get a lot of work, even not being particularly special at
and we see guys all the time that are undrafted or late round picks. Look at our teams, our favorite teams. Jaylen Warren is going to be the starting running back for the Steelers this year. He was an undrafted free agent. The Dallas Cowboys had Rico Dowdle last year, who was their leading rusher, undrafted free agent. So it's the draft capital matters, but I think
let's talk about Isaiah Pacheco, 7th round pick.
Exactly.
He's been the guy. So Isaiah Pacheco, a guy that held a ton of value, because we know what the Kansas City Chiefs do, right? They score points. They
used to, at least.
Yeah. Once upon a time. But when Patrick Mahomes is under center, there's no doubt that that's going to be in the range of outcomes, right?
Yep.
You never doubt Patrick Mahomes and company. And I do think that the draft capital, again, it matters a little bit less because of just the specific draft class and some of the oddities here, the depth at the position. But I do think when you're evaluating opportunity, which a lot of times is kind of what matters at the running back position, he's got it pretty
Yeah.
clearly.
And he's also one of my favorite types of picks where you draft these guys in the 4th, 5th round of your rookie drafts. And if it doesn't work out and he doesn't make the team, fine, you move on and you cut him and it's no big deal. It's a 5th round pick. Who cares?
Yep.
But if it works out and he makes the roster and all of a sudden he's playing in week 2 or week 3, you maybe just hit a home run. So I love Brashard Smith. I think Devin Neal's another running back that you need to be targeting in rounds 3, 4, 5 of your rookie drafts. Okay, let's talk about a couple fast receivers who went early on day 3 that we are in love with. Let's get to Tory Horton and Dante Thornton next. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. The NFL draft is over, but the roster moves in the news never stops. Host Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Kate, this is not a great receiver class, but there are a couple of receivers that we like later in our rookie drafts that we are targeting. Who do you got?
I want to talk about Tory Horton, who I absolutely love for the Seattle Seahawks. Took him in the 5th round, just over 6'2", 196 pounds, 22 years old. And, when we're looking at late round prospects that could have some opportunity, I've already talked about, Elijah Arroyo in the first round or in the first segment of our show today because of that potential opportunity. And, let's talk about Tory Horton now coming out of Colorado State, stepping into that same offense that just lost these playmakers, just lost DK Metcalf. You don't have necessarily a established receiving tight end. Like there's tons of opportunity here in this offense, with for a guy who's pretty explosive, a good enough athlete who can really hit that top speed, hit 22.5 miles per hour in game this past season, has experience as, a special teams contributor. Like he offers, I think, a well-rounded profile that yes, he needs to improve on his route running a little bit. He's, smaller hands. Like there are obviously the negatives that come with a guy that's drafted in the 6th round, but when you're looking at potential opportunity, I want to take my bet maybe on, the 22-year-old productive receiver who, has prior to this past season had back-to-back seasons of 1,100 plus receiving yards, 8 touchdowns. I think it's an intriguing fit, I'll say.
Yeah. One of the things that I do in my dynasty leagues is the last 2 or 3 spots on my roster, I'm shooting for all upside because you can find guys that'll be 8 to 9 point a game scores. Like those guys are incredibly replaceable. What I want on the back end of my roster are guys that if they hit could actually help propel me to the playoffs or to a championship, right? You're shooting for that upside because there's no risk at that point. And that's where someone like Dante Thornton, the receiver out of Tennessee, makes so much sense for me. And he's going to be a guy that I'm targeting in the 4th and 5th round. The production is not great. 65 career catches in 4 seasons, 2 at Oregon, 2 at Tennessee. But Kate, last year, he averaged 25.4 yards per reception at Tennessee. For his career, 22 yards per catch at the NFL Combine. Measured in at 6'5", 205 pounds, ran a 4.30 40-yard dash.
Wild.
He is a
4.30 at 6'5" is
6'5",
insane.
205 pounds. He's just an incredible athlete. And he landed with the Raiders in the 4th round. And you look at this Raiders depth chart, okay? Jacoby Myers is their slot, right? Here are the names that he's going to be competing with for targets. Jack Besh, a 4.7-ish receiver. Trey Tucker, Christian Wilkinson. I'm not making these names up, by the way. Tyreek McAllister, Shedrick Jackson, and Jeff Foreman. It's not going to take a lot for him to get on the field. And we've seen Geno Smith have a really good connection with DK Metcalf. Dante Thornton's going to be an outside receiver in this offense. And when he gets targeted, it's going to be down the field. Dante Thornton is the type of receiver that I want to take a chance on late in my rookie drafts.
I think there's a lot of upside here. I'm going to say it, though. I'm a little spooked at what we've seen come out of Tennessee here in recent years because
I agree.
It hasn't necessarily translated to the same level. They've had some really outstanding athletes. Jalen Hyatt, for example, comes to mind, where you're looking at a player and you're like, the upside's pretty tremendous here. Obviously, the 6'5", running a 4.3 is absolutely insane. And that just kind of gives you, I think, a really good idea of how he wins. And it's with that athleticism, it's with that speed and size combination. The only question is, like, can he run a full route tree? Is Tennessee's offense going to translate in any way? It hasn't so far. And that's what kills me. But again, if we're taking shots on upside.
I will say the last thing before we head out, his offensive coordinator is Chip Kelly, who has plenty of experience running similar offenses. And I don't think the Raiders are going to put a lot on his plate early because you don't need to. You've got Jacoby Myers, you've got Brock Bowers, you've got Jack Bash. These are all guys that are good route runners that make plays underneath. The reason you draft Thornton is so he can make plays down the field. Don't overcomplicate this thing for him. And again, you're taking all upside. If he doesn't work and if he's a healthy scratch, you cut him at the back end of your roster and you move on. But I like him so much more than some of these other receivers that are like your 4.54 guys that are good route runners, not overly dynamic. I would just rather take the upside shot here.
Yeah, go with the athlete. I like that.
There you go. All right, that is it for today's show. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty Football your first listen every single day. Make sure you check out the channel on YouTube. Download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. You can follow Kate on Twitter at Kate Magdziuk. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. We'll see you right back here on Monday as we continue to recap the NFL draft and get you ready for the 2025 NFL season.